Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Let me walk you through the issue here. Are you watching my screen?
Mhm.
Alright, so what I want to do, hold on, let me make sure it's still working the way I think it's working. So when I draw a square on this cube, right, I want it to make a tall, I want to make a rectangular cube coming,
That comes out from that, yeah.
that comes out from it. Right now, I am achieving this by deparenting, cause like when it looks like when you make the rune, you align the um the position of the to the grabber transform position. And my first thought was, oh, I'll just align the rotation, but that messes up the line because the line is parented to it. So the only one where it really matters is this one. So I thought I would deparent it and then maybe reparent it in just this one, because what I want to happen is right now,
Why
right?
we need to do the deparenting again?
Because if I don't deparent and I change um the rotation of the collider, it will also change the orientation of the lines and make them look all ugly.
Hmm.
Because it's a child of that. So I did find a script. I didn't really try to get it working too much, but I did find a line or two. This one is supposedly supposed to align the parent and child, but it doesn't seem to work. I think the way it's working is it's just changing the parent to the child rotation and the child to whatever it is after that. Like, just not swapping them, but, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but so this is working how I want it to work with them deparented, essentially, but you were saying it might mess something up, right?
No, the method that it works is slightly different in that, like, right now, I think if you move that rune object, like, you're not going to move the drawing line at all. But I was just saying now my mesh is like can be treated as a real object. Like it will move with the things that it's attached to. So like if you draw a rune and create that object, I believe if you move the rune itself, the lines will not move. So any rotation, point being, is any rotation or movement you make to the rune in the future will actually move and rotate the rune lines. Um,
Gotcha. Okay. Um,
which is can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on what you're going for. Like we'll have to consider things like if we rescale something, making the rune a child of that will automatically apply that scaling down the tree, the object tree. So,
that sounds
um,
good to me though.
but well, that is not good when when you're, for example, drawing a line. Drawing a mesh, it'll scale that mesh down, so the line width will get all weird. Um, so really, we'll need to account for stuff like that. But in the long run, it's better because then the rune can stay with the parent object if we have moving objects. But anyway, so basically you have is that the collider we're looking at? Well,
Yeah.
okay, so that one's working properly.
So the
Vertically works properly. It looks like it's just any other direction doesn't.
yeah, it doesn't. But also, so before we even get to that part, I'm just on this part. Like, is there a better way I should be? Uh, is the deparenting going to affect? Like, if that's not a long-term solution, then I don't want to use it.
Well, the with the parenting stuff, we're gonna need to consider. We'll probably need to have a script that says we'll need to do one of two things. We'll need to just say, okay, any object we put in the game that you can draw on has to be a 1-1-1 scale. We cannot scale it up or down. Or we say, okay, anytime you draw, we're going to need to change the rune size and rotation and all that other shit to I guess the rotation shouldn't matter unless you're rotating the object, after the fact. But we're going to need to change the rune scale factors to automatically account for the existing scale of the object. So what that means is like if the object is twice as long in the x direction, we need to make the rune scale 0.5 to offset that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the method I assumed we would go for drawing on stuff that could grow and things like that. We could also
Yeah.
just um
That regardless of what it is, it's stuff that can be fixed. Your problem right now is more fundamental still. Regardless, it's just why. How do we get the? How do we project the dimension to the dimensionality that you want?
so
Right.
I think I can figure that out. I bet you if I just type in, because right now I'm aligning the up vector of the cylinder to the forward vector of the rune because the forward vector of the rune is already set to the camera. So like it already has the. I don't even need to get. Originally, I was getting the normal from like a raycast, and I was like, you know what? I don't even need to do that. I can just get it from the camera, right? And raycasting was a headache too because I didn't know what direction my surface was on, so I was doing like a circular, like a radial raycast and hitting the closest thing, and it was way more than. But so
Hmm.
I like this way of getting it a lot better. But like yeah, so like I'm sure maybe if I just typed in how to extrude the box, a flat box collider in the direction of the up vector, I could maybe find a script for that.
Well, you want the normal to be up essentially.
Yeah,
So the normal is always going to be up for you.
right now it should
Um,
be, right? Green is up, blue is forward, and red is
yeah.
right. So like it should right now always have the up in the right direction. It's knowing, yeah, which But, this is the thing I don't understand. What I was saying I don't understand because so the way I'm thinking of how this is happening, right, is I tried like moving this stuff to the front before doing the size, and that didn't seem to have an effect on anything. But I thought that should fix it, right? Because then I am first, uh, I have a flat collider, right? Like I have no collider actually at this point. Here's where the collider comes in. Then once the up is aligned, shouldn't I just be able to do this same thing and have it be right? But it doesn't seem to do anything to move it to here.
First, let's just make sure
Oh wait, actually,
that let's get some. I would just make sure that the drawing get size is working properly. And to do that, I would do some draw gizmos.
okay. Before the before here.
So do it on draw gizmos or whatever, right? So it's its own method. I think it's void on draw gizmos technically, but I'm not sure if you need it. There you go. It's automatically found it for you. And you let's make the gizmo colors. Do gizmos dot color. I think it is equals color dot some color, just so that we know what it is. Colors dot whatever. I think it's just color actually. I just can't remember. Yeah, color dot green. There you go. All right, and then get the size vector. So var size or vector3 size equals get size, the rune dot get size or whatever it is.
Careful, bub.
Rolling dot get size. All right, and then let's draw some spheres. Gizmos dot draw sphere might be what it's called. Sphere. Yeah. That's a method, and we're gonna want the position. It has a position and a size. So the position will be yeah, transform dot position plus the G size. But we want to do it so plus the G size X.
Just X.
So you'll need to make a new vector 3. Yeah, we only want to add the X to. Basically, we're going to make dots showing each point, ever the min and the max, right?
Oh,
The question is,
you have
I
get
don't remember if
minimums
I
and get
programmed
max, I
is get
think.
size. Is get size? I think the total size. So I think that's the total size. So it's actually x divided by 2. I think I programmed it to give
I
you
think you
the.
have a get minimums and get maxes method though on the
Well,
drawing.
this should be. It should effectively do the same thing. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, so get G size.
But well, you have to make it a new vector 3, and it'll be. You can just do it in there if you want. New vector 3, and then just do x. Put it in the parentheses. Remember.
Okay.
The constructor, and then just do the g size dot x and then 0, 0.
And then for the Y and Z too.
Yep, but you're gonna want the negative one. Also, I think you need to set a size for the sphere here, so that's one argument. Now the next argument of draw sphere needs to be just some size. I think I find 0.1 is a good size. There you go. Alright, so then you need to do the negative x, so you're gonna have 6 of these statements. Yeah, y, but remember that needs to go move into the y direction, or the y, yeah. One above it, same thing. And then same thing for z. Right, save that, and let's see what it looks like. Oh, I think I will have to divide by 2, but we'll see. It might be twice as big as it's supposed to be. Yeah, try dividing by z, or by 2, because I think get size is the total width. Yeah, you can just do it there. Yeah. I think that'll automatically adjust without you having to hit play again. There we go. Okay, looks like it's working. Just draw over a couple. I mean, I guess that Y direction is weird, right? The forward direction is small, but it is small, duh, obviously, because it's a flat fucking thing. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, like at this point it should be flat, and then we should be extruding it to the, rotate it and then make the forward longer.
Yeah, basically, I'm gonna debug things so that I know exactly what. You have to select it to draw the gizmos, but I don't know why it's not drawing those gizmos.
It didn't
What
do
is it
the rune.
saying?
So this happens sometimes where it will just do. It
Oh, the
won't make.
worker broke.
Yeah, even without it deparenting, this happens sometimes where sometimes it just says line and no rune.
Well, it looks like those lines still want to connect. Like, you see how it just made that other rune
Oh
old?
yes, yes, this happens. Okay, so watch if I draw on something else, it says this.
Yeah, it's a weird bug. Hopefully that won't happen with the new line render. We'll see.
I wonder if that's because I'm like letting go of the buttons at the same time or something like that, or like it doesn't know
Yeah,
when
that could
to.
just be a simple input bug that I didn't see when I was setting it up. Not super important right now. Okay, looks good. Just draw on every surface just to make sure. And is there maybe can you do it on a you like a off surface, something that's not perfectly aligned with the dimension? Yeah, like something like that would be fine. Okay, it's working. Good.
Right now I don't know if I can
Yeah,
get out of
cool.
this because the thing it's actually doing is like the pre get sucked to the wall. You're not able to move things, so I actually can't get out of
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Looks good. So get size is working. We know that's not an area to worry about. Now we do want to check that the forward direction. I mean, I guess you are definitely getting the forward direction right because your thing is doing it. But let's draw it anyway, just because it's easier for me to visualize things that are drawn. So however you're getting your forward direction, just draw a raycast with the gizmos.draw line.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm just getting it directly from the child, which is set back here. Or sorry, back here. I'm just getting it indirectly from this. By setting
So,
the.
well, is the object's position itself that? Then at that point, just draw the object forward. If you are just doing it by making the object forward that forward, you know what I mean? Or object up that up, whatever you're doing, you can just get it from your. Yeah, it's just a gizmo draw line. We don't want to do a real raycast.
And what are my arguments here?
I forget the line.
Probably
Start probably
transform.
and end. Start and end, I'd imagine. So yeah, just do transform dot position. Ooh, wrong argument area. You're in the wrong function.
Oh, whoops.
Probably end position, which would be your just do forward or whatever. Transform dot forward, right? Transform position plus transform dot forward. Excuse me. You had it right. Yeah. Or
And then I.
whatever you're. Yeah. I think it automatically defaults. The forward is automatically 1, so that's a good size. You probably want to make it a different. Green is fine actually.
I'm pretty sure this is right already, unless the arrows change color or something.
That's
The
fine.
built-in editor
Hopefully it is
arrows.
right, but it's just easier for me to. I like having these things drawn when I'm thinking about how to do this stuff. Okay, so it's four. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the red. Yeah. So forward is that way. So how are you getting your up direction?
Wait,
Your out
sorry.
direction?
So
That's a different object, right?
this is the actual This is the line, right? This is
Yeah,
the.
but it's either way. It's still up. I see. Okay.
Oh wait, why is this drawing this way? This doesn't seem like it's right.
Well, that's the rune. The rune is its own game object, right? If you click on the rune to see its gizmos, you see the red line. Red is always forward, and
Blue is
like click on
forward,
the
I
line.
thought, right?
I think red's forward.
Or sorry, I'm sorry. I should be doing up, not forward. That's the thing. That's the direction I'm aligning. Not that it matters. We could make it
Yeah.
forward.
Either way, we'll draw. I want to draw the. So hold on. There is the rune. The line doesn't does not. Or is that because you're unparenting it and not setting it back as a parent? Is
Right,
that why
right.
we're not? Okay.
Yes, yes. So this is actually what I'm
Yeah,
not
but
sure what this
regardless,
will
it will
update.
be slightly different because.
Okay, yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's what I expected to see. Okay.
All right. So that's where you're doing the up of the other of the
The
collider now, right?
the up
You're
of the
drawing the up of the
collider only
collider.
because we did what we did as the up was like where we made it longer here.
Hmm.
But it doesn't really matter. We can make what we can extrude whichever face if it's easier.
Well, now we gotta think. Okay, so we want to now think of. We now need to find the dimensions to extrude the collider out. So where are you setting the collider dimensions? That's right here at line 40.
Um, here. All right. Oh wait, no. Drawing dot get size plus collision padding. Where's collision padding to find? So you're saying this was from the original, and yeah, you're saying that it's 5 tall, right? And then you're getting the size of the drawing and then adding that 5 tall. So
Hmm.
this is actually where we need to change depending on the uh like
Well, for both of them, we'll wait. The collider dot center. Okay, the collider dot center will, yeah, always be there. The size, is it really just size? Interesting. I couldn't remember how I did this. So size is just a vector 3 that gets that. That makes it actually kind of easier, I think.
yeah,
Um,
I thought
but something is
this.
wrong. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just saying. So the reason. So I was thinking that if I put these lines after this and this line after this, then this should actually it doesn't matter where it is in relation to this. So like before, let's say so like this up here where we and basically like rotate the thing before we even give it a collider, and then so that the up is the way we want it to, and then this creates the collider, and always this is always
I see what
making.
you're trying to do. You're just trying to make it so that it doesn't matter as long as our up for this local up is correct.
Right, this
Then
should be local, right?
uh,
This isn't like world up
that is, I mean, that is world up.
okay,
Is what
then this
that
is
would be
what we need to
fine.
change. That's exactly what we need to change then. Is like,
Then
how
just
do I
change
make
that
this?
to the local. It would be transformed up times 5.
Okay, that might just be it.
That's a good solution, though. That's a good solution without having to do math. That's clever. That's,
I am I have honestly the proudest moments of my programming career are all that. Are all like
avoiding doing the
figuring out
math.
ways to not do
Yeah.
math.
It's probably a smarter way to. Well, yeah. I mean, it's smarter in that it's easier to understand, and I don't think you get an efficiency gain either way. So easier to read and uh,
Like
maybe even more intuitive.
when I was trying to do like isometric movement in GameMaker, I like there was this whole big script to figure out what should be in front of what, and I was just like and I was just like I'm just gonna set a thing in the like where the top corner would be and just get the distance from that, and it was like they're 30 lines versus my one. Maybe it was more there was more efficient like processing wise the way they did it, but
There's a pretty standard like rule of thumb of like don't worry about efficiency until, like, you can think about it if it's something easy, but basically don't worry about efficiency until you are, mostly done, basically. Because then, because you're going to spend all your time trying to make things super efficient and never get anywhere when those things may not be the bottlenecks anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, it's really about learning, finding, like, go through, don't try to worry about efficiency until you know what your bottlenecks are. I think that's the quote. Is like, once you, or paraphrase quote, you can't worry about efficiency until you know what your bottlenecks are.
let's hope this worked.
Where's the
Where's the...
collider? How do we find it?
Okay.
Well,
It is
something's happening.
it
It has
is
changed, but it's not correct.
Wait, hold on. Did I forget. Let me go back. Did I have this off before? Oh wait, sorry. I might have needed to turn
I think you just undid what we
I might have
changed, by
needed
the way, just so you know.
Hold on,
It's easy enough to fix again.
let's just
I
turn this off. Let's just turn that off because I can't remember if I had that on or off before we started doing this. That might be what's doing it. Because that I shouldn't be actually, yeah, I shouldn't be needing to do that now because um oh no, yes I do. Yes I do. Sorry. I do still need to do that. So yeah, I'm not. Let's just fuck around with it more and see.
well, let's again. If we'll just start. We'll draw some shit if we can't figure out what's going on.
Actually, it might be the center that needs to change now. It might be setting the center that needs to change now, actually.
We'll figure.
Because it
So where
is.
are we? So drawing that raycast, is that being set? That's being set to transform dot up, the one that we drew, the green line there.
Yes. So, I mean, at least in these two directions, it is going the way we
But it
want it
seems like
to.
the rotation isn't is
So I think that's because previously we were using the world dot up and setting the. I think it has to do with this line now.
center. Well, even then, the center of the collider. Why don't we just make it? Why are we dividing by two for the height? Oh, probably because we were doing because of the uh, padding there. Um,
So now I think this 2 might have to.
I need to think. Yeah, so that two might need to move around. That center we might need to actually compute what that is. But for now, just remove the two and set it to just the you know wait, collision padding dot y.
That's
Oh, hold on.
that's the collision padding is the amount up, is like the tallness
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
So we do. So this needs to set that back to being Ruden collider dot center dot. Wait, why is it Rune collider dot center dot? Well, set those to equal. We need to set them to be equivalent. So it's probably Ruden collider dot center dot y is what we want to look at there. Or I guess just Rune. We could just make this whole line Rune collider dot center. But we might need to offset that at some point. But this will. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that doesn't change anything, which is interesting. All right, let's look at your code again. Room collider dot center. I mean, I guess it's this line literally does nothing now, so we should just get rid of it for now. Now that I'm looking at it, it literally doesn't do anything. Um,
So
and
now,
then
okay, so now,
the size is it might be what we're having the issue with, because the size of the old size. Well, no, hold on, let me think here.
so if I get, let's get rid of the collision padding for right now, and just see that we have a square exactly mapped to the face of the thing, right? Because that's what we
Sure.
want to start
Yeah.
with. I think we do. I think we will, but maybe not.
I mean, the get size, the dimensionality here, and we know it works because of the.
Right. If these green things are being drawn in the right way, then it should be right, unless I have something wrong in the
Maybe there's
rotation.
a rotation thing. Yeah. Maybe it is the rotation thing actually, because that would make some sense.
Yes, it is the rotation
Okay,
thing.
and it's rotating it exactly the same way, which is good. So take out the rotation.
So this will have it, I believe,
Let's just
unless
see what it does.
I believe this will have it just always draw a square in the same uh direction, but maybe
Then maybe we just need to fix the way it's rotating. Just fix the rotation code.
I guess that kind of makes sense because before I was rotating it based on where it was in world space, right? Or something like that. Okay. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
so
that one
that's
obviously is
right.
right. So what about the other one?
This one
That one's
appears to be
correct,
right. All right,
roughly.
let me just do an up and down quick.
It does annoy me that it doesn't line up with the points perfectly, but
All right,
it's
that
fine.
looks all correct. Okay, so that's fine. We just now actually we could just take that out, right? And that
Yeah,
should.
we don't need it now. It should just work with. We don't need that either. Actually, we will need that eventually because the divide by. Well, I don't know. That right now, as it is written, it literally does nothing. So you can keep it commented out.
I was saying, or we should change this back to the divide by two, right?
Well, let's go one step at a time. Undo what we did slowly. So add back in the collision padding in
Okay.
line 44. Remove the
Oh
first
yeah,
set
yeah.
of
I forgot about
comments.
that. Okay. So all right, let's
Save
see.
that, and then let's see where that gets us.
This might just work,
Yeah,
actually.
that's what I'm thinking. Hopefully the directionality works too. No, okay. Interesting. That's the exact opposite of what I expected to happen.
So okay,
But
so
see, oh, you
I.
see that? Wait, you see our transform to up? Okay, that's why because the transform to up is doing that. You see that? You see our green
Oh
line?
yeah, it's going up now. Why is it going up now?
Because you're not rotating the transform to up. So it is. So that rotation was doing something, but the collider, it made it weird with the collider. So we need to think here. So what were you rotating before?
I was rotating the vector 3 dot up of the
Of the
parent
rune
of the
itself.
rune itself. So grabbing the green arrow of the rune and moving it
Change
along
that
a
and put
radius.
that line back in real quick, and do change that quaternion to quaternion look at. Maybe look rotation is what it's called. And it's going to be real quick. Hovers over look rotation just so I can see what the argument order is. Forward and up. Okay, so our forward direction we want to be line child transform dot forward. It's going to be the same general idea, but we're just going to make it forward instead of up.
So what is the difference between this and the other one, the one that I had
I just want to make
previously?
sure that we're rotating properly. This is just consider that we're rotating properly, but we'll see. And then the second argument will be vector 3 dot up.
And that's my local vector 3 dot. That's
This is
my.
no, this is world vector 3 dot up. We do want it to be vector 3 up. The world up.
Okay, wait. I was using vector 3 dot up before though, so I must. I know what. I know why. Okay, I have something to try if this doesn't work.
This may work. I'm not sure yet,
Okay.
but we'll see. I mean, I think we need to do the collision padding in the direction of transform dot forward now. In that line there, 40. I think that needs to be transformed out forward now because we should be aligning our forward direction to the forward of the child, the line child thing. I think this will work. So we want to see. So our raycast still our raycast is still going to draw wrong here. We'll draw that to be the forward direction too. All right, let's hope that does something good. We'll see.
I think this will work. There's a chance this will work because I'm pretty sure the problem with my thing. I don't know unless the function itself was just not the right thing to be using. Is that I was using the world dot up, not my local up. Okay, so.
All right, well, different, but not really.
Hold on, let's see.
But we have.
Hold on, let me
So
see
we
something real
have
quick.
our forward. We have our forward direction is in the right direction, but for some reason our collider. I wonder if the collider needs its size in world coordinates. You can go ahead and try your other solution, but keep mine around so it's easy to switch back to. I have a feeling that maybe the collider is in world coordinates, so I'll check that while you're switching back.
Alright, so let's try. Wait. Do this again. And go back to.
No, it's an object local space. Okay.
My solution was just gonna be to fix this to be my local up. No,
Okay, try it. Yeah, go ahead.
hold on, let me paste this again first.
See if that works. Because it could be, yeah, totally. But the from to rotation stuff is not a function I typically use very much.
So the way
that
it
gives
was
you an
explained to me is
angle.
like it's like grabbing the arrow of one thing and aligning it to the arrow of another thing. Like if you have two game objects and you want to align the blue arrow of one to the other, you're grabbing this one and you're aligning it to this one. But you know, I'm not 100% sure that's exactly how it works, but let's just see what this looks like now. Was there anything else I needed to turn back actually? Transformed out up is still that. This
I think
is
you're
back to
fine.
up. Okay. Okay, that's. I mean, the forward's going the right way, but it's still not. Yeah, it's still not.
But hold on, you're doing. Is that drawing forwards? Oh no, that's drawing up. I see. Okay, it's drawing properly. All right. Let me think here.
Let me just also make sure it still has the same general orientation here, which it does.
Let me think here. So
Oh, wait. Sorry, we want to set this before that, right? Or no?
Um, hold on, I need to think. No, right? Because we need to align the current up to not the old up, right? It should be the up after rotating. Either way though, up is this is right.
No, you're
I
right.
think
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah. Let me think here. Um, why don't we just make this line child transform dot forward, not transform dot up? Just because that's what we're really doing, right? We're setting it to the forward of the line child.
So set this to forward, you mean?
No, the collision padding. Because this is what's wrong. Is the
Uh,
line child transform dot forward. Just copy the second argument of that and put it into the replace it transform dot up with that. No, the transform dot up in line 40.
140. Okay. Okay.
Replace
Oh,
that
okay.
with line child transform dot forward. Yeah, just for the sake of argument here, so I'm not going crazy. Because maybe something with the rotation is confusing it, but this should be constant. This is a constant value that won't be affected by any rotation. So if it's in the world, oh, now I'm thinking, well, we'll see. We'll see what this does. Because I don't think, now that I think about it, I don't think this will work. But
I think this will give us the same result, unless
the
I'm.
box collider is in local coordinates.
Wait, hold
Where the hell
on.
is it?
Oh,
Oh,
this is
you're on the
one.
line. Yeah, same result. Because now that I think about it, the box collider's coordinates are in local coordinates, so what doesn't matter? Or sorry, are in the box colliders, or are in world coordinates, not the box collider's coordinates. Let me think here. All right, let's go back to the code. There must be something I don't understand about.
So at some point, right, regardless of when you were originally doing this before I started doing anything with rotation or deparenting or anything, right? You had this line in
That
here.
line was that line was to offset it because the center wound up being like this won't matter. We'll have to address this in the end. But you notice how if you go back and look at the collider, you notice how
I know what you
you
mean.
remember
It's
how it
it's
was
it's
like
half
it was in the
intersecting with the
middle.
box, yeah.
Yeah, so we want to move. So it was to move it out essentially, and we will still need to do that, but we can address that problem later. So change the collision padding back to transform.up. It is annoying to me that transform.up isn't working because I feel like it should. Um,
Yeah, this was essentially the problem that I couldn't get past. Like I don't understand why it seems like something's going. I mean, I had the wrong thing. I had vector 3 up here. But still, I feel like now it should be working, and
yeah,
I'm
it should.
scrolling.
Just give me a second to think because basically if what Unity is telling me is true in its docs and the size of the box collider is measured in the object's local space, so that is important. Um, where the hell is my mouse? Here we go. All right, so it's object's local space, and the box collider is being added to this object that we're messing with, and we're drawing real quick. Make sure we are drawing transform.up in our line draw, in our
Uh,
on Gizmos draw. Yeah, so we are in fact drawing the up position. So scroll back up. Let's do a print of the rune collider size after we set it.
okay. Here, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference between debug log and print is. All right, do that and let's see what we get. Maybe this will explain something. Because right now that's aligning with negative x perfectly. Because you haven't rotated the cube at all, right?
The which the cube that I'm drawing on, you mean?
Yeah,
No,
that is a zero. That's the rotation is
it's
just default, right?
it is a zero, yes. Also, real quick, let me just make sure. Yes, okay. This line is a end thing, but I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on because eventually I want to lock the Z to a 90-degree angle because I don't actually want full like normal setting. Like I want it to lock to 90-degree angles in the end, but that's an end thing, like I said. That would be this, right?
All right. Yeah, -5, right? So that is probably about right. Let me think here. All right, now go click on the rune. And let's look at the collider settings here. So it is roughly correct. Now move the X of the size in the rune. Just start moving it around. Okay, hold on. Okay, it is wrong. That is wrong. Let me think here. Do me a favor, go back to the code, and let's print
Wait,
also
why is
right
that?
before. Let's print transform.up also. Do both of them. Yeah.
Why is that wrong though? Don't we want the Y getting the or at least the Y getting
That
one?
-5 should be in the Y direction.
That -5 should be in the Y direction.
In the Y position. Or that 5 rather, not -5, but whatever it should be. Something that is 5 should be in the Y direction.
Yeah, okay. So
Um,
what did you want transform dot up?
yeah, do transform put that up, and while we're at it, let's also print collision padding. Just I know it's the same thing, but just for
Let's do.
actually no, we don't need to print collision padding. It's a waste of time. Just do these two.
Is what you're saying that the X and the Y values should be swapped here?
I think I have an idea of what's happening. I think up. Hold on, I'm thinking. Just give me a second. Oh my god, I think it's super easy. Go back, change that to. I don't remember what else we changed, but change that back to vector3.up instead of transform.up in the collision padding.
I'm in collision padding. Okay.
We're gonna set it to the world up because it's in local space, and the local up is still the Y. So that's still gonna be okay. Let's see what this does. All right. Because the problem was that's the problem. I was trying to define the box collider in world space, not local space. So now, because the local space up direction is still y, it's always going to be y. Hopefully this works. Okay,
That
so that does get us what roughly what we want for the y. The y here was this is what we were doing before, and we went through this whole exercise to find out that this is actually correct. What we need to debug is the other dimensions. Y is correct.
okay.
Um,
Okay, I see what you're saying. We need to
and the y is in. Sorry, yeah, I'm just gonna keep talking because I'm on a roll. I think.
Go ahead.
We need to go from world to local space, which we can do. There's a matrix for it. So take before we add the collision padding, store the size in something else.
Okay. bar.
Yeah,
Um,
drawing dot get size.
I mean, we don't really need a variable for that, right? We can always reference back
We're
to.
about to do something to it,
Oh,
is
okay.
the point. Yeah, and then hold size is equal to transform dot world to local matrix dot multiply point, and then put the hold size in there again. But that's a function, so hold size function, and then inside of it goes hold size. Okay.
So wait, what is this doing? So
So there's a matrix um, that when you multiply that matrix by a point, so these objects are defined in what's called model space, right? Or in other words, local space. And we are when a object is rendered in the world, there's a matrix called world local to world space matrix, and when you multiply that object to the world, it basically positions, scales, and rotates that object to where it's supposed to be. We're going the other way. We're saying we have this size that I'm getting is in world space coordinates. I don't need world space coordinates. I want to put those coordinates into the local space. So we're going backwards to put it back into model coordinates. I
okay,
think this will work.
I get that
We can explain
idea.
it if it works.
Okay, okay, all right. Let's just try it.
So go back, and still need to replace the size to now that drawing size needs to be in a 47. Drawing dot get size needs to turn into hold size. And we should probably rename these later, but for now it's fine. Okay. I hope this works. Not only would it be nice and convenient, but it would make me feel better about my understanding of this stuff.
I won't. Let's. I still don't understand why we ever have to go into world space at all. I guess is my thing, but we can talk about that. Hope
Oh, something's
it's.
happening. Oh, it's huge. Okay, problem is why is
So
it so
this happened before when I tried to get just the maximums out of drawing dot get size. It made like almost exactly this same giant flat rectangle shape. I'm not sure.
I need to think, but I think the problem here is that it's also scaling it or something. Go back to your object, click on your cube object.
I have to
I
do
want
it
to look at
again
its transform.
on the cube. Okay.
Yeah. It's just a position scale. Oh, your scale. Everything's scaled by 2. That could affect it.
I can make
So
this.
just make them 1 for now.
It's hard to draw on it as one, but we can manage.
See if you can manage it. That could be part of the reason why.
Well, if that's gonna cause a problem though,
We'll
then
see. We'll figure it out. Let's just see if this works, or what this does at least. All right. Well, clearly it's still probably broken, but let's see. It's still huge, huh? Why? What?
so I won't ask this if it's gonna throw you off your train of thought, but when you don't want to be
I was
distracted,
hoping
I'll have you explain to me why we ever have to get reference out of world space for this. Like, to my mind, it should be working like it's only referencing its own dimensions and its own local shit. So like, why do we ever have to go into world space
because the size of the drawing that I'm giving you is a size in
in world space?
world
Okay.
space, right? and we need to. So I might have. I think I have the right idea, but I'm approaching it wrong. So go back into your code. I need to think.
Here, I'm gonna look something up on my phone quick so you can continue to read the code.
Let's try this. Um, I need to open up a thing real quick because I don't fully remember the thing. So it's going to be matrix 4x4 dot. Okay. Let's try this instead. For hold size, erase everything before multiply point. We're gonna change. Actually, yeah. Exit out of that. It's gonna be matrix 4x4 dot.
like the
I guess you could get. Yeah, you can just put like a space. Yeah. Dot. Rotate. And then that's a function. So close parentheses, and we're gonna do transform dot rotation, and then at the end after that's it. It's just transform dot rotation goes in there. I think. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. What else goes in rotate? Hover over rotate. No, that's right. Okay, and then it's probably just because it's part of thing. So put a dot after that and put it together with multiply point. There you go. Let's try this. Now, hopefully, what I'm doing is just transforming that rotation, the size by the rotation matrix of the object. We'll see.
It didn't suck me in that time. That seemed to kind of work, except for the.
Okay, there it is. That's the okay. I'm not so far off. I think the problem there are just some side effects with weird scaling, but I realized all I didn't need the sizing and scaling and position fuckery. I just needed the rotation piece of it. So basically, what that did is said, I want to look at the rotation. Basically, the way of all positions and rotations and transformations work, to make it super efficient and linearized, is they store them in these 4x4 matrices, and there's like just a super neat way that this all works. That it just mathematically like winds up being perfect. That you can store all like you can store scale, rotation, and position of any object, like how you want to position that in the world, how you want to rotate it in the world, how you want to scale it in the world, in just a 4x4 matrix. And you can combine those so that if it's like a sub-object of other things, like if you have, for example, are doing an arm that is like, that should be, for example, if here's my arm, I rotate it 90 degrees, but then my elbow or my forearm is rotated 90 degrees from that, you can kind of multiply these matrices together to make one matrix. I'm probably describing it really poorly here, but
I know what you mean.
doing,
I know like the basics of what matrix math is, and just that you're just
yeah,
saying like there is a it works out just such that in this 4x4 matrix you have all the
information you need,
parameters
yeah.
you need for size, rotation, and scale, which is neat.
And it's really beautifully like elegant in that yeah it's just such a small, simple, concise
Is
piece
that a
of
law of the
data.
universe or just a well-designed thing of Unity?
That's a law, mathematical law. These are like these. I mean, I guess this is. I think the work that was done for this was related to computer graphics, and that's why this math exists. But this is just a mathematical fact.
Does this look like it's the same size to you as when it was 1x1? I can't tell now because the relative size of the cube is different.
It should be the same because we're not transforming it by anything. But if you want to check for sure,
Okay, well, not so,
um,
it looks it looks right for now. We can fiddle with it. It looks like you basically solved it. But okay, so here's my question then. When so the your explanation as to why we had to go into world space and do this matrix math was like, oh, the drawing size is in world space, but when we had it as a flat thing, it does map to the drawing size in world space at that point. So why from there must we still do this matrix transformation thing?
well, so we're not we're right now we're still doing all of our math in. Well, I guess we're moving it to like a partial location space. But basically, the get size rune or function is just returning the size in world space. So that is the size. So in that sense, if the rune is drawn, on the flat surface, if the rune is drawn where you've been drawing it, one of the biggest size is the y direction, right? So you're going to get vector 3 that is like a small x, a really big y, and a really big z, right? And that is the space that we're operating in. But our dimensionality, what we are working in, is in local space. So when you rotate the rune so that its up direction matches the up direction of the camera, um, you move that local space, and now even if I feed in that zero, for example, let's say the size was 0.11 or something like that, effectively 0.111,
Hmm.
um, then that 0.111 in local space is going to be is going to have that x direction be tiny, right? Because its x or forward direction is still 0. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, so we rotate it. So we use the rotation matrix from the object, the one that Unity stores to position the object. We use that already pre-existing rotation matrix to rotate to get a new vector 3, to essentially rotate that value, that vector, to be positioned now in local space. So whereas before we had essentially a vector in world space, we rotated it to be in
I
local
see what you're
space,
saying. Okay, I see
and that's
exactly what
why.
you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So before before we could get it mapped perfectly onto the faces, but trying to extrude it sort of in any direction would need to account for that transformation, basically, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a there before we could. Yeah, exactly. Because we don't know which way we're extruding. Essentially, we could map it the way when we were doing that really thin one. It was really easy to map it because we didn't have any because we were just doing sizes, positions basically. Um, but now that we are doing now that we're trying to extrude it some way, it's a little bit more complicated.
So if I wanted to use this matrix 4 by 4 to solve this type of problem in another instance, I just need to know the local thing here and the world thing here, right?
Yeah, so so it's a matrix 4 by 4 dot rotate that generates a 4 by 4 matrix given a quaternion. So if you have, or for easier to say, given a existing rotation. So we have the rotation the matrix that we wanted was the local rotation matrix for the object. So that's why we gave it transform dot rotate. Um, then it's just dot multiply point. So the way it works is you take your transformation matrix, in this case just a rotation matrix, and multiply it by the point that you want to turn into that space. So hold size it was in world space, and we had our local rotation matrix. We multiplied the hold size by the local rotation matrix to get it into local space.
Okay, so
So in the future, if you want to do it, it is dependent on what you're trying to do, which space you're trying to move into. But we're trying to move into local space, so we made a local rotation matrix with transform dot rotation and them basically the right side is just what point you want to transform into that space. The left side is what space you want to be in.
If I wanted to do a world space in this part though and local on this side, would I have to use a different matrix thing over
Yeah,
here?
there'd be a different matrix if you wanted to
Okay.
go from local to world. If you were already in local space, then you could probably just use the transform dot local to world matrix, and that should work fine. I think part of our problem was that we weren't just transforming the rotation; we were also transforming position and scale and other things that I must not have been picking up on. So now offsetting this will be a similar thing, right? It's going to be, but this is slightly different. Because this is the collider. So I think you could still just divide that by
I
two.
think yeah, this should just work the same at this point. Like it's made, right? It's already been made.
Yeah, I think that was. I think the middle there. It was actually collision padding
Divided by 2.
the dot y divided by two. Yeah.
Yeah. Collision padding dot y.
Or I guess actually what would be better would be. Well, it doesn't matter. What might be better is just calling it vector 3 dot up divided by 2. Just that might be a clearer. Or you could just make it 0.5. Well, no, sorry, I'm wrong. I am completely wrong. Collision padding
Oh no, yeah, because
dot
it's
y divided by
multiplied.
2
Yeah, yeah.
because it's multiplied. Yeah, it's still like not perfect because there's something weird about it because you're assuming it's the up, but it doesn't matter. That will never change and never affect anything.
Perfect. Awesome.
Awesome, and that works for every rotation, even off rotations.
It should, and also,
Should work, but let's just draw on like
so
you know a
the
weird off angle.
it may not like if it may not the edges of the box may have like a diamond shape toward to the relative to the square, but I think it should be roughly correct.
Yeah, good enough is fine, but let's just make sure. Yeah, okay, good. It's doing it at the angles. All the angles.
All right,
I
hold
don't
on.
think that there's a way to get that locked, so.
Let me make sure this doesn't fuck it up because I do still want it to work this way. Because the way I want it, I don't want it. Like it becomes really annoying, or it doesn't for the repel. Actually, it doesn't really matter for the attract at all. But for the repel, um, and just for the puzzles and stuff, I don't want it to be like perfectly mapped to the normal of the surface that it's on. I want it in the z coordinate to lock to 90 directions and that to a 90-degree thing, and that shouldn't matter at all for this. But basically, I want it so that like if I'm on a wall and the wall is slightly tilted up, it just goes perfectly horizontal. And if I'm on the ground and the ground's slightly tilted up or down, it just goes straight up. Is
Yeah, that
what
makes
I'm.
sense. I can see what you mean.
Um, and then this is a good tester because I know this is slightly angled up. And it should go just perfectly straight out, which it looks like it
Looks
does.
perfectly straight out, but it's kind of hard to tell. Oh, well, you'll be able to see
If I
from.
put it on the rappel, you'll be able to tell right away because it like I wanted the rappel to like not move you along a line, but literally apply a force to you, and so like
Mhm.
keeping that force consistent without just having you follow a straight line, you'll basically like it'll push you out of the collider before you get to the end of it, if that makes sense. Uh,
Okay, yeah, I think I get what you mean.
but we can just look at the.
It looks like it's working. I mean, you can tell
I
that
mean,
it clips
here
through.
it is.
You'll know right away because it looks like that box clips through the thing.
This should always
Oh, I
be
see what you mean. Yeah.
this should always be divisible by 90 without a remainder, basically. All right, awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
What was the other thing? Oh, that we talked about the other thing, right? The other thing was the Let me try one more thing quick, just to make sure this works the way I expect it to. See, like, this is the last thing we'll have to deal with is this.
Uh, oh yeah, that is also a rotation. Um, might be able to solve it with the same.
Triangle thing, with something similar to the triangle thing and detecting the
No,
corners
I
and
just
then.
because this is because all we have to do go make that happen again. Right, and
So actually, yeah, you're right. We can just get this point from these points, right? And this point from these
I
points.
just mean we might be able to solve it with the same rotation matrix thing. Like, all right, so now now rotate that over, rotate this Y of this rune.
Rune Y.
Start turning it, right? Yeah, we just need to line it up, right? So there, that is what we want, right? That positioning.
Right. But how do we know where that positioning is without looking at the drawing itself? I guess we can get the minimums and if it's a perfect square, we could always just get the minimums and maximums and do it that way and just do 0, 0, max, 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 min, min, max, right?
Yeah, we'll figure something out. I see what you mean. Is that the draw of can you draw another one like that is more drastic than that? Get more drastic.
It's weird. I'm actually not sure um why that one was so much less I guess here, let's align perfectly to this pot so we can. That's not drastic. Let me do that like a 45-degree angle to the pot then, and that should work. I mean, that's not
Okay, yeah.
super drastic, but
Okay, I see what it is. It's just that it's making a perfect square at the points and it's just the
so there's
um
also a world where we don't have to solve this at all, where all that matters is there's a world where depending on the shape of the rune, this doesn't matter at all. All that matters is because it actually like
I see what you
when.
mean. Yeah, like if we don't have a square rune, it's not as fucking obvious, first of all.
Right,
And
like if we're gonna,
uh,
so do we want the ability of the player to draw a huge version of this symbol? If we do, the easiest answer might just be to make the symbol a circular symbol, and then
yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Something with a radius out, like a bunch of. It doesn't
Right,
have to be exact circle, but something that resembles a
right,
circle.
and then we just do this with a
Um,
with a with a capsule, not a capsule, a cylinder or capsule collider
yeah,
instead.
yeah,
So I don't really, I'm totally fine with this being a circular symbol to not solve this if you are.
yeah. Let's not worry about it for now. Maybe put a to do in, just note as a note so that we don't forget about it somewhere. Um,
Um,
yeah, just something that says that if that the collider is aligned to the or the size of the
to
drawing, but not the. Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Easy enough. We'll figure that is a solvable problem, at least.
right on. Right.
I've been playing with the trying to find a good balance for or a good representation of the page folding. I don't know if you're watching.
I thought it looked real good on the video you sent. That
So I have a real good looking one, but I think it could be better. So like, I have it coming up to here, right? And you have this turn, but then I have it. So this is my problem, right? Over I point up to here. So like, what I want to happen here is that as you approach point 5, I want this to start to become a straight page, just flat, and then I want to start flipping, which like kind of what this does, flipping back so that you're laying the page down. Like it still looks okay if I do. I mean, it looks okay if you go fast, but I want to, if you go into this code, this is basically like will look good if I can't find the math to do it properly.
honestly, unless you want I'll just before you say any of this, if you want the tactile feeling of someone turning the page with their mouse to feel good, like to feel to and that's why you're thinking of this, that's cool, but like we very easily could just most people are just gonna want to hit a button to flip through anyway, right? So you could easily just hide it if
Yeah,
you.
I think I do want people to be able to flip one by one, but this is like it's an important part of the game, and it needs to feel and look good, basically. But basically, this one works. Like so, basically, this one doesn't have the flip at point 5. It just assumes one curve, and then it'll flatten at the end.
Are these splines you're doing this with?
This is a Bezier patch, basically a Bezier curve, but a 4x4. So, like each of these blue dots is its own Bezier curve, or each of these rows of big dots is its own Bezier curve. So it's hard to see, but like right now, all that's straight. And then as I go, you'll see that it's a Bezier curve, and like the one property of Bezier curves is it only interpolates, or it's called interpolating, which is confusing because there are other definitions for interpolating. But interpolate for splines and shit just means goes through that point. So Bezier curves only interpolate to the first and the last. It won't actually interpolate to these to the middle points. And we're doing a cubic Bezier curve, which is like the most common in computer graphics, which just means every curve is made up of 4 points. And basically, as I move this T, I'm just moving the control points. And the control points are just being mapped around a cylinder. And I'm basically just saying, so there's or a circle here, basically. Well, yeah, it is a cylinder. So I'm just saying, okay, here's the equation for a circle. Each of these points is on that circle, and as I turn here, I don't want the further the way you are, the more likely you are to follow the actual circle path. Like these points on the very end actually represent the exact point on the circle that I want you to be, and these points closer into the middle or not as far away track as a percentage from their distance from the width. So like this is 1, this is like 3/4, this is 2/4, this is 1/4, which doesn't matter because the position is 0 anyway.
So the system that you use to work with with curves like this or splines in Unity, is that the same system though? Are you just like are you
I'm
mapping?
doing it the same way. So it's with matrix math. So where is it? I make a matrix 4x4 matrix, and this is just a set number. Like, man, isn't the world super simple sometimes? This is a standard matrix. How you get this matrix actually is kind of complicated, but this is a matrix representation of any Bezier curve ever. All you have to do is have this matrix and multiply the point by, and as long as you have the correct number of control points, you will get this, or this will work always. So this is just a known quantity. And then I create the patch by just going over each control point with the number of like U is like the number, like kind of your UV, the number of cross, and V is like the number up and down, the number of rows you can think of. Or rather, I might have that backwards, but um, the basically I go over, I create a matrix, I create a weighting factor for these things, and then I multiply them by the where is it? My M matrix here. It's a little more complicated than that. I have notes for it from my old class somewhere around here. Here's my lecture notes from the
The,
old thing. But basically, you're just doing a uh,
the page
pretty simple
itself,
matrix
though, like
multiplication.
the page that I'm seeing on this drawn on the screen, is that just a visual representation of this, or is that a mesh that is like mapped to these
There's
weighted
a mesh,
points?
yeah, a mesh that's mapped, and I'm changing the actual vertices. This here is um, these points are the actual points of the mesh. Like these points are in model coordinates, and then if you look here, I move it to, or I'm drawing this mesh in local to world matrix. So it's created in model coordinates, and this object just happens to be, um, is just part of the journal. So when I go local, so in world, my object, my model coordinates are also quote unquote designed in world coordinates. This is why we see them here. But I'm basically just projecting them on into a local or to the object space to draw them. So that way, when I rotate this journal, the page rotates with it.
Does the projection always have to be 1-to-1 in dimension to the thing that you're to the mesh that you're mapping it onto?
What do you mean?
Like if this was a if this page were just a little bit taller, would it fuck it up? If the mesh for
Oh,
the
so you do need to consider how am I draw? How what do I define my points at? Hold on. So I have a page width factor here. I think page width. So if I make this bigger and then change that, you see how it does get longer.
Oh, it's
Woo.
automatically doing its dimension to the dimension of the thing. Okay.
Yeah. So I've defined a width for it in model space. Um,
I guess the reason I ask is this is how you would do soft body
I think
physics
scaling this should scale it automatically. Yeah,
or like
scaling this scales with it. So because I'm projecting it, so this is the width is defined in world space or here in model space. So when I move and do and redo things, right, it maps that width. This is the model space width maps to the local space of the thing. But if I move that there and then do this and then I scale my journal, it scales with it. So I can still move it here and it'll still be the same, effectively the same size because that's because the this matrix multiplication being done in the draw mesh. I'm using the local to world matrix of the transform of this writable, which is a child of this journal.
yeah, I
I don't
have
even fully understand it, honestly. I know enough to work with it. I think over a couple of years I'll really learn it, you know?
yeah, the could you do a squash and stretch on an enemy or model or something with this right now? Like a 3D squash
Maybe
and stretch.
you would probably just do it with a shader.
Yeah,
But you could.
I have a plugin for doing it with shaders, I think actually I
Uh,
bought from the store. But
but yeah, you
actually,
could.
I don't know. Maybe the thing from the store actually does use this. And is soft body physics in this in Unity just a really complex version of this? Like just a really
I don't know if there is like Unity has its own defined soft body physics, does it? Unity.
I thought it did.
There are things like there are assets for it. Maybe they don't call it soft body physics.
I I've just seen a lot of videos of people making really cool looking things with and they always call it soft body physics, but they also call it that outside of Unity, so that just might be a
It might have a different name or something. Or maybe it's like an advertisement for this, whatever the hell this is. That looks cool.
yeah, this shit looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks all. That does look great. Um,
But
I don't know.
I just don't know how like
I don't know how this works. I mean, it's probably just deforming the mesh based on and calculating like. I mean, that's what it's doing. It's deforming the mesh. You see it hit right there, and it squishes that in. But like the rigidity of that and how, yeah, we could make something that does this.
this doesn't look awesome. This is frightening.
We could make something that does this definitely. It would take work for sure. Um,
I mean,
my guess is that like I wonder if it is not even like a physics thing and just a like the physics might just work like normal, or maybe there are physics parameters to make something feel soft body without, and then the mesh deformation itself is something separate. Um, yeah, this looks good. Like I think we could do something like that. It would take effort and time to figure out how to simulate the
I
thing.
would just like to have
Well,
one slime enemy or something that's like, oh, that thing looks neat.
yeah. I think South by physics are technically expensive, so figuring out how to do that would be like these mesh deformations. I think this is very simple because there are very few triangles. Also, I can change the number of triangles here. You can see, so like the that I'm making on the fly. So like you'll notice that this probably looks this angle adjustment. It doesn't actually do anything. I need to get rid of it. But you can see how you can kind of see I'm doing like one shader with back shading. I'll need to figure out the proper shader programming for this, but you can see these. It's like doing like garage shading, which is a very simple shading, but you can kind of see the spaces between where the points are on the for the vertices.
Yeah,
So
I see what you
add
mean.
more. I think V here. You see I'm adding more, and you can kind of see that, and you can see it gets kind of here. It's really obvious, right? It gets there's like a I only have two sets here, so it's a
How does it look when you turn
triangle,
the
right?
page like that with that few vertices? Just
It probably looks weird. Sorry, hold on.
it might
This
look
is.
neat. I mean, it just kind of looks like
It
it's
just doesn't
folded.
look. Yeah, it doesn't look impressive. It's simple. I just did these so that we could probably balance, how many we need. It doesn't seem to really take much of a performance hit when I'm doing it. If I look at um, Windows Analysis Profiler, I look at my profiling for my scripts and my rendering, right? Um, as I'm moving it, like nothing. Woo! Which is
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I
Um,
uh, it could. There may be a neat way to do it where like you where if we want a page to look especially um like ragged, we could turn down the vertices on it or something in a certain way.
yeah, we'll need to. We can figure something out. Oh well, honestly, ragged. We wouldn't if we wanted to make it look ragged. We'd probably just do that with the normals on the page and the shader.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying to figure out though, like so, like notice when I have everything on, you do see jumps. And I'm trying to figure out what that is. I could probably click on it. Right? That should show me. It looks
We
like it's mostly still the editor loop though. But what is doing it? Is it like
Is it only
so
when you're
it's
changing the
on now?
value? Is it only when you're
Yeah,
adding the
yeah,
value?
but why? But if it's not a rendering, right, and it's not the script, then what the hell is that raised? So it's still here. Is it the physics?
Might be. It might be that it's try
Looks like physics takes
can
some.
can you turn off the mesh and just do the curve and then see if it still goes up? Like turn off the
So
page.
Oh yeah, I could make that happen. Hold on. Uh,
Also, is it a rigid body? Does it
no,
like
it's not right now. We'll have to figure. Well, it won't need to be a rigid
it,
body
it,
really
it
because it's a
won't?
book.
So
Cool.
do you envision this as a button the player hits and it comes up and then they mouse through and flip the pages, or do you picture this as the spell book as a literal physical object that you're picking, that you're carrying around the world with you, like the fruits
Yeah,
or
so
the.
there are a few things. Give me a second to put this in, and I'll explain my vision. I'll draw it out because I think this was.
Uh,
Um, no. It might just be the. It might actually be the. I don't know. I thought it was the garbage collector, but maybe it's VSync because I'm moving things so quickly. Or others. It might just be whatever the fuck others is. Either way, if it's not a rendering in the script, it's pretty good. Whatever it is. I can probably figure out what it is if it's not rendering in scripts. I could probably fix it. Well, maybe. We'll see. All right, so draw mesh. So if I turn the mesh off, that's it with the mesh off entirely.
okay.
Um, still
It
have
still
it.
jumps.
It's
Okay.
still setting the mesh technically, I guess, but it's not drawing it. Um, turn mesh back on. Okay, same idea. Still happens mostly there. So let's turn off physics. Obviously, it shouldn't be physics, so let's go back and forth. All right, that's still doing it. Turn off animation. Obviously, it's not going to be animation, but just to confirm, good. Garbage collector, why not turn it off?
Do you have an audio thing on this? What's that audio thing down there?
Where?
The very
Oh, that's
bottom.
just, I don't know what the fuck that is, honestly. I don't have any audio on this. I don't know why it's doing anything, but maybe it has, maybe there's just some default, like no audio, no audio, no audio going, or something like that.
Hmm.
Maybe, let's see if it's VSync. Not VSync. Global illumination. Not global illumination. It must just be whatever this others is. Yeah, it's others. Okay, whatever the fuck that is. Alright, well, it's still nothing. Still relatively little. But what it is, if I turn everything off, maybe it's just actually something in the editor. Maybe others is editor.
Others section of CPU profiler records the total of all areas that do not fall into rendering scripts, physics, garbage collection, or
Great, thanks.
physics. This includes animation, AI, audio, and particles.
Yeah, I know. We'll figure it out. I don't know. Maybe it's a render pipeline thing. Whatever it is, we can figure it out, and we can probably make it efficient.
Sorry, I missed three things. It includes animation, AI, audio, particles, networking, loading, and player loop.
Okay. Maybe it's the player loop then, or not the player loop, but oh, because the player loop is low on this. Yeah, player loop is relatively low. Either way, it doesn't look like it takes a lot of script time to do. It doesn't look like it takes a lot of rendering time to do. So I think it's a good, efficient implementation. So and also see now without that other thing, without trying, it does the flip, and it gets curved, comes up, curves, and then flattens out towards the end, right, and gets flat.
Yeah, that looks good.
Um,
That looks real good.
but kind of what I want is it. Let's turn this off real quick. What I would love for it to work would be for this to work because I would like it to look like a page flip. I won't spend too much time fixing it. I could, basically, I think what I need to do is find a range in here that's like starts off that as it gets closer to 0.5, this number moves closer to t. I could probably there might be a lerp there that could do that actually. Um, anyway, point being is it would look nice if this happened without the jump. if you move up, oh, I accidentally turned it off. Why is it reloading script assemblies? There. You move up here as you get to 0.5, so it's basically at 0.5 now. I want this to stay here, and then I want these to just move in and then shift over, but you'll get the effect, the general idea here. This flips, unfortunately, because of what I was talking about, but if this page was still here,
I
then it
get
would
what
look
you mean
nice,
though.
and
The
then you
middle of
lay
it,
down.
the middle of it carries momentum, right? Is what you're trying
Yeah,
to.
exactly. Like you're turning the page from the side,
Right.
I think that
Yeah.
would look really nice and feel nice if you're turning the page, if you're like in the drawing mode and you're manually flipping.
Yeah. So tell me what you're from UI perspective. What are you thinking for this?
So
Like.
I see this being basically like, all right, so you, if you are just out in the world, I want you to have your, so if we're looking at your perspective, I want you to have your arm out like this and have your book out like this so you can read your pages of your book while you're walking in the world. And here's your drawing finger, right? And then I want you to be able to use the mouse wheel to flip the pages, and maybe this hand will come over, right, and do some kind of like flipping magic animation, and it'll flip back and forth here. I think that would
Okay.
look cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you're drawing, I think it should zoom in real close. Maybe even zoom into just one page. Um, and it should just sort of the world. This should be most of your view, and you have maybe you see just a small icon where your finger is pointing. Maybe you still draw with your finger,
So
right?
this was.
And you see like a point where you're gonna draw.
So at a point, right? I guess as long as you could do it so where like the finger is because you don't want the finger or hand blocking the bottom right corner, or in reality it would be the left, right? Because at least the way we have it set up now. But either way, the corner that your
Well,
hand is
but we can
coming
have it
from.
like this. What if it's like this, where you start off in this view, then when you right click, if wherever your pointer is when you right click, it zooms into that side of the page. So like when you right click here, it zooms in over here, and then you see just this page. And then if your pointer's over here, it zooms in on just this page. And then when you left click without right clicking it, you can grab a page and flip it over.
Yeah, that would
That's all you
work.
need
That
to
would work.
play.
If you want the hand still in there, though, I think you can just have it set at a certain degrees away from the pointer to where if you were drawing in the top left corner and your hand would show just barely in the bottom right, but if you were to wander down to where your hand was, it would then move off this screen basically.
Yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah, that stuff we'll need to play with it to see what feels good. But if I can nail down this movement, I would love to nail down this movement because I think it's going to feel good to have this thing up in your face and be able to come over here, grab the page, and flip it. I think that'll just feel good.
Yeah.
Um, and then because the journal is such an integral part of how the game plays and feel and like what the point of the game is, I want the journal to really really feel good. So I think when it gets to drawing on the journal, I'm gonna try to do my original attempt at drawing, um, which was I actually changed the mesh itself because now with these I can change the resolution of the mesh, right? So now I can make you know I can give the player really fine controls over,
It's funny you
you
brought that
know,
up actually because I was just thinking about that earlier when we were talking about like scaling the size of a moving object that you might want to have drawn a symbol on. We could always still try to do the thing where we literally draw on their mesh if you can figure it out for this.
yeah. We will figure it out. The benefit of not drawing on things meshes was, you can I can I can isolate the image that way. If the thing that we're drawing is a mesh itself, then when I classify it, I can just get that mesh. I don't need to look at anything else in the scene, right?
Right. Yeah.
Classification gets a lot more complicated when I have to deal with the other crap in the background. But if it's its own mesh, all I need to do is put that mesh on its own layer and then just take a picture of that layer, which is why using independent meshes was um, ideal. Also, like the problem with drawing on things in a mesh is by editing the mesh is if you can't control this, like the number of vertices and shit you have, then you can wind up having like if I click once because the mesh is only actually, if like this, because the mesh is only two triangles, right? Um, it's a triangle here and a triangle here. That means that this whole triangle takes it, and when I click here, it's just going to get this and turn the whole thing black, or whatever the ink color is, right?
Right.
So that's why we need to be able to edit these, is because we need a resolution that feels good to draw on.
Yeah. I mean, it may end up being in the end that like. So I'm just trying to picture literally in the game what drawing on a living creature looks like. And like unless the living creature is super big or something like that, um, we
We want to change the size of the rune of the like of your ink,
like yeah,
or the
well,
width, the line width.
you like if we had to, if it was too hard or too much of a pain in the ass, I would be willing to go to a system where like it's basically just like so just picture something roughly your size, like drawing on another person, right? Like
Mm.
draw like there's only going to be like the with the fineness of the movement of your mouse and the line size and everything, like kind of the only spot I could picture you drawing on would be like their torso or their chest, right? It'd be too fine to do on their legs or their arms or whatever. And if the chest is going to be the only spot you can draw on anyway, like we may not have to go to the mesh level and we could just do it the way that we were doing it for everything else, I guess. I don't know. I'm just uh, or even like I would be fine like if it turns out in the end of this game you're like living things that are roughly your size are just not drawing on them is just not something you do. You just draw on things around and move and like moving like mechanical objects maybe in the world or like where we know exactly what their pattern is going to be or like moving stationary things in the world. I'm still fine with that. Like there's not actually that much more that is gained by putting a stasis rune, for example, on a thing versus on the ground and then that thing walks onto it, right? Like it's still
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
effect.
I don't know yet exactly how well my current strategy for that was I would split the rune across multiple game objects, but the more I think about that, the little worse that sounds, because then I still have that issue of, well, now I'm using two meshes. I guess it would still be, I could still have them on the same layer. I don't know. It becomes complicated basically when I need to draw across two things,
Right.
two different game
And
objects.
like the effects of the rune, like some things might have a slightly different effect, right? Like if you draw on a living creature and do the repel rune, like I would program that differently. I would do that as like, oh, he's a bouncy ball basically now, right? Like he just bounces all away from everything. That's a slightly
Mhm.
different effect, but but most of the runes that we've invented work just the same if that living creature walks into that area and has that effect put on them while they're in there.
Yeah.
To the point where like if there's not enough different if we can't justify like drawing on living things that are roughly your size with enough novel mechanics, then why do it just for a really few niche things? Like,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe we make that like Runes 2. That's what we could like shoot for if this game becomes successful and people want a second one. We could shoot like, okay, that would be cool if we could go back and do that, you know.
yeah,
Have magic that is maybe can affect people, you know, affect living things in different ways, that kind of thing. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out because there is something cool about like, what if we had a game like this where there are bosses and like, you know, the was huge and you went on it and drew on its arm and that its
so
arm became tiny
that's
and
the
then you
only
you know.
where the enemies are gigantic is the only way I see that fitting into this kind of game where it's mostly really
Yeah.
more of a puzzle, not really a combat thing. Like I could see there being a Shadow of Colossus style boss that's relatively actually I would love to work on something like that. But
I mean, that could be the second version of this. This is just one iteration of this magic system. We
but yeah, when I originally envisioned it, I was like, yes, you should be able to draw on everything, moving things, blah blah blah. But the more I think about it, the more I think drawing on living things that are roughly your size isn't really gonna offer that much. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think for now we can nix it until we, you know, decide that we have that it becomes something of value. But yeah, I mean, we don't need to worry about it for now.
Yeah,
You know, we have plenty of other stuff to work on. But I think you're right. I don't think it is necessary for um, the game in the long run. Uh, yeah, there's got to be an equation for what I want to do. I think I actually, while we were talking, I think I have an idea of what the equation is. Basically, I just need to say, as you move closer to point 0.5, be point 0.5. Because effectively, these ones over here are the ones, you know, these points in the back are, these guys are lagging behind this one because I'm doing that multiplication. You know, I'm essentially multiplying their, like, this is the how far along you are. I'm multiplying that by a factor, which is over here actually, is just 1/3 of their, um, or you know, is relative to their distance um, from the width here.
gotcha.
So if I just slowly somehow, I basically need to take this number and lerp it towards t, so
Yeah,
that they all become t. It might even just be that lerp. I just take that number and lerp it towards t as it gets here, and then I'll just have to do the reverse of that here.
yeah, it looks real good. I already think it looks real good, honestly. Like, but yeah, I mean,
It should naturally work too, because this is a mesh, and anything we draw on it should naturally curve and warp. The only thing I'm worried about here is I originally for like my original vision of this was that to make things neat, you give people the ability to like type text, but maybe we just make them draw it.
honestly,
The
the way I was
writing.
thinking is like I'm all for like the player taking notes and everything, but I do think there's a little bit of affordance we can give for like the way I'm sort of picturing the pages now is like they have like they're almost like a blank Pokemon card. Like they're sort of like an area where you're clearly supposed to draw the rune, and then like a little thing in the corner that has the number of configurations of the rune, or something like that. Like give them a little bit of a hint of what they should be putting where.
Yeah, we can mess around with that for sure. That's definitely, I could see that being valuable. I want the map to be on here too. I want you to like, maybe you just click middle mouse button in to pull the book up entirely, also, just as a thought. But I want the map to be in here so that, and I want you to see, I still think the map should be, the more I've thought about it, the more I think the map should be like a 2-page thing, and it should give you basic details, but you can draw in specifics. And maybe there's even some weird ability where you can like you can link a map to like a point on a map to a page. So if you click on it, it'll bring you to that page.
You could signal make those pages like a different color, and if we do that whole thing where like remember we were talking about like spatial puzzles on a special slate basically that would translate into unique real world puzzles like drawing a line to connect two things to make a hallway, whatever, that sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
we could make that a special material and make these 2 pages that of the map that same material to indicate that hey, drawing stuff on here may have effects in the on the map.
Yeah,
Um,
we could. That would be neat. I wasn't even thinking that, but that actually is a neat puzzle of like drawing something on the map could do something in the world. I was just thinking like the map is just like you see the like you it's a fog of war, but then you have discovery, but you only get the basic outlines of like maybe the war of like the terrain, but you don't get specifics. So like if you want to mark that, oh, there's a temple here, then you need to go in and draw the temple,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah. I do like the idea of it just being 2 pages because my favorite shape for a map ever since the very first Zelda is just like oh, it's wide but not tall. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but I love that shape of of map.
Maybe there's a beacon rune.
That'd be
I do.
cool.
I also think wide and not tall is the
I
same.
was looking
Maybe there's a
for
beacon rune where you can draw a beacon, kind of like in Zelda, and you draw a beacon and it appears in the world as a beacon, so you can go that way. You can like orient yourself.
that'd
And
be
then if
cool
you draw it in the real world, maybe it still does create a beacon, and then that beacon shows up on here,
on the map. Yeah,
so that you can mark.
I was looking for a companion to like a track. Oh, this is actually one thing that would have to be that I. The one thing of like drawing that I was thinking for drawing on actual living things was a tracker rune that would just it would be super easy, right? It would just create
All of them. Yeah.
a trail renderer. That's it.
That
And
actually could be super useful too for like if you have to follow the path of an animal to find the rune, then that's useful.
right, I thought of that with your whole feather off the mountain idea
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like the so like but that can still be done with the zone, right? Just anything that walks in that zone gets a path, and then the rune destroys itself, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Beacon track, I guess it's not really. I'm just gonna say beacon. If you have other runes that you want, I think just load them into here because I want to start using these docs to track things.
maybe a better word for beacon would be like if it is the twin of track, like maybe there's a better word than beacon. I'm trying to think.
Pico. Pico.
Did it?
Create a beacon of colored light, um, where drawn. Maybe also it's always vertical.
It should always be vertical
Yeah,
for the um you know for just being able to be seen.
useful and yeah, always vertical of the right where drawn.
Do they last
Also
forever?
will put maybe. I feel like you'd want them to last forever or until the player specifically removes them, just because it could be annoying if you get rid of them and the
The
player.
the only reason I ask is because we were talking about limiting how many runes could a player have active at once, and if that's going to be outside that rule set, that's fine. But then it needs to have its own max number, basically.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Also, with the beacon marker in your journal map. I think that's a. I think that's an important rune. I think that'll be a good one for exploration, discovery, and navigation.
Yeah,
Easy to do. Yeah.
that's what I'm all for the runes that are just like literally just setting like the my favorite ones that I'm gonna do next are like the sight blind one because that's super easy. The trail one's super easy. Beacon also super easy. Just nice, easy.
Well, the beacon one, now that I think about it, is the track rune. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just had this revelation. You put that thing on an animal, it's gonna track it.
That's true, but I don't know if you'd want a moving vertical pillar to track an animal, right? You'd want a trail renderer to so that you could
Yeah, it's not. It
see
doesn't
the.
have the same. It doesn't serve the same purpose. But maybe there's like maybe it's not tracking, but it's or so maybe it's maybe it is tracking, and what you're describing is like trailing. Track and trail maybe would be what we call
Yeah,
these.
yeah, that might be better.
Beacon track.
Track and trail
Uh,
works, yeah, definitely. Because yeah, the
they're
purpose
not
of
opposites, but they have some similarities at least.
not everything has to be necessarily opposites. I just think if they share
Yeah.
some weird property, they share some property that I can't quite put my finger on in this case, and it's the same thing with I need to come up with a one for the mirror rune. I want the mirror thing to be. I did think of also of a weird alternate way to do the mirror one that I'm that I so at a point Dave pitched like an extrude rune, like when he was doing a lot of Blender, and I thought that was kind of neat. And then I thought, so what if you could do the opposite and push something in? And then I was thinking of combining that with the mirror or something where like you would draw a shape on the ground, and one side of the shape would be a flat, just a straight line basically, and that would determine an angle and like almost project into something almost like a portal in Portal, but imagine if instead of just coming out, you were in a sort of tunnel that something at a direct angle to that at a direct 90-degree angle to that straight line of the rune got like whatever was in that path was also projected into this long hallway. It's really hard to explain what I'm saying, but I could maybe
Can you
draw it
draw
out or like
it?
it's
Yeah.
so like
Here, I'll stop streaming and look at yours.
so like okay. It may be too complicated to understand. It's almost one of those things where I feel like I would have to program it to
Let's
even
show it.
give you an idea of what it is. But like, all right, say here you have your rune. You know, it's whatever shape. This is the rune, right? And then over here you have a wall. We'll do like a mountain wall in blue, right?
Okay, and we're top down right now,
And we're top
or
down. We're top down right
yeah.
now. And so over here, you have a bunch of basically nothingness, open space and rocks and things. And we'll just, whatever. There's a bunch of stuff over here. And then you activate this rune, and it takes what's reflected from here and reflects it into an open space in this solid thing here, if that makes sense. So, like, it would create
So it carves a hole,
it would
basically.
drill a hole. Like we wouldn't do a real like mesh deformation or anything. We would do this like portal and create a very far away space that takes whatever's in so whatever's in this like vector here and
Yeah,
like draws a long dark hallway with things sort of just like intersecting into it, and then the exit of it being wherever this ends. So its length is variable. I don't know what puzzles could be created from it, but I think it would be trippy as hell and interesting.
yeah. It is like trying to. You'd need to make those vectors visible because it would be so confusing otherwise of what the rune does.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the communicating what it's actually doing and stuff. It might be too much. The easier way might just to be do what I said, but originally, which is just like you set it in it's a copy paste tool in 3D with a certain area. Like that's the easier way to do it. But like
hmm.
I thought of I want to make something Portal like where I want there to be at least one puzzle in the game. It doesn't even have to be based around a rune, but where like you're taking something from your 3D environment and projecting it into another like space enclosed inside of like a portal or something like that, and where you place that and what shows up in there is
Is relevant.
is
Yeah.
relevant, right?
Is and how you solve the puzzle. Yeah, yeah, we can mess around. That would be. I do like the idea of. I mean, there's something you could do with the sight rune, which is basically that, which is is the visible part of the portal. But we could try to find something more novel than that.
Yeah,
Um,
like the the other the other like the other way to do the original thing too is just like you could have it so this is the easiest way to do it actually, and maybe the best for puzzles is like you just have the rune, and then you have it so that it's it's looking where's my line? It's looking this way. Actually, let's put this in the middle. Here's the rune, bunch of rune shapes, whatever, right? Actually, let's just get rid of those that are distracting. But it's a shape with a long line down the middle, right? And it's looking this way. Um, it's looking out this way, and it's seeing whatever's out here, and making a projection of it, and cutting the meshes, going the opposite way. So this way.
mm,
So like whatever's over here is over there, and then you have puzzles where like you need to pick up something. There's something over here, and there's a cliff. You can't get to it, right? You put this on the edge of a cliff. You need to get something that's over here, um, and move it to wherever, right? And then you just move your body into that area, and you draw another. This was the whole original idea of the mirror rune, was like you'd be able to draw runes within it, and then it would duplicate you would also draw them elsewhere, and that would
yeah,
create interesting puzzles. And that's probably the most sensible way to do it. But I've been trying to think of like a trippier, weirder uh, implementation of it.
yeah. It's hard. That kind of stuff is hard to think about. It's hard to conceptualize. But I mean, the concept of what the mirror room, the original concept of the mirror room, another you draw something somewhere else is interesting. Um, I think on its own, just the how we implement it and how you use it is the hard part,
Yeah.
um, kind of thing. Which is that's the challenge, because it could just be like maybe you don't even see a mirrored world, but it just reflects a shadow you somewhere based on the normal, like a true reflection, kind of thing. I don't know. Well, I'll have to be messed around with, but all right.
Yeah, I gotta go to bed here.
Yeah, it's getting late. I'm gonna try to see if I can find the equation that'll do what I'm trying to do here, and then after that, I will move on to actually drawing on this. But like the journal is surprisingly easy so far. Nothing too complex. It's just worked, which is nice. Um, yeah, we'll see. I guess the next step after this is drawing on it and saving those drawings somewhere so that you can page through them.
Right on. Is it easy enough for if we do like the like sort of like blank Pokemon card model? If Jeff wanted to design that blank Pokemon card in those areas, is it easy enough for him to map a JPEG to those
Yeah.
pages?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. That should be super easy because I'll just do texture mapping and basically when you do the texture mapping, I define his picture as the texture, and I just define like what part of the texture belongs to what part of the mesh. Um,
Right on.
yeah,
And so
we'll probably have to make sure that he draws it in the right aspect ratio for whatever the book page aspect ratio winds up being, the width and the height. But that's it.
well, the reason I was asking actually is because it seems like you're able to set those size things on the page, right? So you could
Yep,
just
I
make
can
it
set them to
whatever,
whatever.
which is
Yeah.
nice because
we'll need them to match like what looks good on a screen.
I
You
will
know what I
like
mean? Yeah.
it's you now as well as I know that if you ask for assets from an artist and give them the exact dimensions, for whatever reason, it's always off by at least 2 fucking pixels. I don't know what it is.
Well, hopefully, I'm hoping that like we can make something that like works and looks and is like actually fun to play and like it feels like a product and we can put it out there and get responses from people and hopefully that will get Dave and Jeff to buy in more. Like, um, I think right now, not that they're busy. Jeff has a child and a job,
Yeah,
obviously, but if it became something um, more uh, tangible,
yeah,
then I think it would be you'd have more of they'd have more reasons to rationalize doing this. Right now, it's a bad rationalization. Like a new father and someone with a job, is just not going to be able to rationalize spending X amount of hours, modeling.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I do. I think even if we don't get a response, even if like we don't build an audience that's you know willing to give us money or anything like that. I think for Dave, once he sees the playing of it, the exploration and that aspect of it, he'll be more on board. It's a little abstract right now.
yeah, it'll be easier too once he's on break. So I'm not as worried about Dave because
Yeah,
once he's on break, I assume
Jeff may never be able to give us full time for like the next like year of his life, but whatever.
yeah,
Like whatever. Like that'll he'll eventually he'll have more time. He's been
yeah.
playing a little bit more games and stuff, so the actually the weird thing is like if it's anything like what I can't right now. Give me 5 minutes. Uh, you can't give me 5 minutes. um, like I don't know if it was anything like me. When you first have a kid, it's like you're terrified of terrible things happening, and but like you don't realize though that like actually like the first year and a half is like the easy part, and then when they get to like just about 2, then it becomes hard and actually dangerous because they're like moving around and grabbing
Moving
shit.
around and grabbing shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think also I'm sure that yeah because it sounds like they're gonna play D&D with us and stuff, and there's gonna be uh, I'm sure they're getting more comfortable as parents. It's still pretty early. Was their year birthday only in
yeah, but that's what I'm
August or
saying though.
something?
It's like right as the point where you start to get the most comfortable is when it then turns
Also
around on you and it's like
maturity.
and it gets like way harder. So
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, if it ever came to it and people were interested and we could start like a Patreon or something, then maybe we could just pay them, and then at that point, it'd be fair. It'd be
yeah,
a reasonable thing.
right on.
All right. I will keep working on this and show you guys as I update stuff.
Sounds good. Thanks
All
again
right.
for the fixing the thing.
No problem. I'll talk to you later.
Later.